Welcome to Dr. Ta's Real Talk, which is the third component of the Stronger Transformation Framework. Dr. Ta's Real Talk is presented by DQ Consulting LLC, empowering individuals and businesses to grow with clarity and confidence. Real Talk is a limited vertical series rooted in honest conversations about life as it actually shows up. It's not polished. It's not packaged. It's just life. It's that back and forth dialogue that you have with yourself or you have with a trusted person. Real talk is where the growth meets reality. So that's the reason you got to be real. Where healing is still messy. Where boundaries, they're tested. Where love, fatigue, faith, identity, and becoming all live in the same body at the same time. I'm joined by OnJerya Smith, and together we are having the conversation people think about quietly, feel deeply, and they rarely say it out loud. So wherever you are listening from, pull up a chair. The space is for truth, reflection, and real life. OnJerya.
Teresa.
Honey. You know, we're talking boundaries, we're talking power, we're talking becoming. And I just want to put out there that, power is not loud. It's owned. Power is not loud. It is owned. So how does setting boundaries change the way individuals experience relationships?
Well, first of all, we have to understand what are boundaries, right? Because again, like I've said before, we use these buzzwords, right? With boundaries, it's not about controlling someone else's behavior. It's about controlling your behavior and how you respond to whatever is happening, right? Which again is hard for us because we didn't learn how to establish boundaries. But once you learn it, you got it. You perfect it. And it basically begins to drive and shift who you are becoming as a person.
Who you are becoming as a person. And I agree with that because it really connects to empowerment and the practical life shifts that have to occur. So then why do many people fear being perceived as difficult when they assert themselves?
Because perception is everything. It may be the fear of unknown, right? Like not knowing, not being able to adapt to the environment, feeling that I'm not good enough to partake in this conversation, in this situation, feeling that I'm less than, right? Like I'm not worthy of having a seat at the table. When in actuality, you're more than worthy. Matter of fact, sometimes you actually bring more to the table than the people that's at the actual table.
And that's something that is hard for us to understand because we're looking at the world through our cracks and our insecurities. So therefore, we don't see that really you could be bringing much more to the table than what the people are bringing that are at the table. But because you see the world through your lens and how you have learned to respond to whatever trauma or what have you has been a part of your life, you don't see the connection. And I think that's very important, because really what we're talking about here is social conditioning. We can say lived experiences, but it's that social conditioning. And after so long, we don't see that something is now not copacetic. So what does it mean to take ownership of one's choices and consequences.
That means that it goes back to basically being accountable, right? Because when you take ownership, that means you own it. You're responsible for your actions. You're responsible for your feelings. You're responsible for the the healing that goes along with whatever it is that you have taken ownership of. And it's hard because sometimes I don't want to own it. I don't want to take on that burden. I don't want to take on that heavy lifting because that's work. And I don't want to do work. I didn't sign up to work. I signed up to sit back and look cute. But we all can't sit back and look cute. We gotta do some work.
So really that accountability and owning your own stuff, sometimes we'd rather not own it, even if we have an opportunity to own it, because it is going to be work.
Right.
This segment is brought to you by Irene Baxberg. After a life-changing accident left her in chronic pain, Irene Baxberg refused to give up. Today, she inspires others by sharing her journey to hope and healing. Follow Irene Baxberg on Instagram. Find her at GotHealth_VAKSBERG Baxberg. OnJerya, how can individuals pursue purpose without competing for validation? So I guess my real question is this. Lots of times we think we are pursuing our purpose, but we really are just looking for validation. So it's a competition. I want to be validated, but I dress it up in that, it's my purpose because people respond to that. We can interchange ministry. It's my ministry. But really, I'm just competing for validation.
Well, the thing is, how should I say this and be nice? Oh, it's really no nice way of saying it. Basically, when people are pursuing something without, quote unquote, competing for the validation, they're really chasing the success, so they think. But as you also nicely stated, it's really more so the approval, the recognition, the attention. Because, I'm an attention seeker, the status, because, if I'm on this level, people are going to view me. Ooh, and that's really big in the church. It's very big in the church. Not necessarily where we are at our church, but in like other churches, like in the just when it comes to religion, like, if I'm a bishop, if I'm an elder, people just want the title. I can't necessarily say they want to do the work, but they just want the title because having that title means something. It means that I have arrived, but not understanding that, there's this thing called work, that 4-letter word, WORK work, that comes along with having that. So that's great that you may think that, you're getting somewhere, but without that work, you're just chasing your own tail. Because what is the bottom line? What is the end goal? Is it, I am working hard to pursue XYZ in order to have XYZ in the future? Or am I working hard to be a people pleaser and to have people to ooh and ah over me and about me, which then strokes my ego? What is your end goal?
Well, I think that one thing that you're alluding to here is the need to have intrinsic motivation, because that's the opposite of this competing for validation. Because if I can reinforce my own intrinsic, my internal motivation, then hopefully I'd be less likely to engage in these competitions or allow myself to be love bombed or whatever else may be the crack that is in my life. Because that doesn't it doesn't serve me well, and I know that. But that goes back to the self-awareness, that goes back to being able to, as Miss Gloria would say, stand even if you're standing by yourself, because it's not something that's being well received, because you're going against the corporate voice that Dr. Velma and I talked about in reclaiming your voice. And then, of course, as Dennis and I talked about, these things have become the standard. So when you got to now do something that's going to be totally contrary to what the community, and community is relevant, whether you're talking your family, whether you're talking the community, whether you're talking church, whether you're talking jobs, but something that's contrary to what has been sanctioned. That means if you're willing to walk that road, you're going to have something that you lean on that has nothing to do with that entity, because that can be taken from you in the blink of an eye. And then who are you? So I think that you raise a very good thing, chasing the success and the approval. And as you said, even with titles, we may want the title, but don't necessarily want to do the work. What role then does self-awareness play in sustaining transformation? Because people think that transformation is easy, but what role does self-awareness play in that sustained transformation? And she laughs.
It helps you identify the real problem, or as they say in corporate world, the root cause issue, which is hard, right? Because again, it goes back to, I have to be willing to do the work. I have to be willing to admit that there is a problem. I have to be willing to admit that once I realize that there's a problem, that there's a shift that needs to be made. There's a behavior that needs to be changed. Let me just talk plain. I have to realize that there is a crack in my empire, that there are the signs. It is written all over the wall that there are things that I need to do that I am refusing to do. I need to recognize the patterns. I need to recognize what is triggering me. Ooh, what is draining me? What motivates me? What causes me to self-sabotage? Oh, that's a very good biggie right there. Because sometimes we feel like I am not deserving of this promotion. I am not deserving of more. Why? That is the why. Why do you feel, I like to feel things. Why do you feel that you're not deserving of the finer things in life? So recognizing those patterns, those behaviors, again, going back to that accountability, like you got to be accountable. You got to be willing to do the work. I mean, that's just something that's just like never going to go away, right? I wish that, accountability is something that we can just package up, put in a bow, tie it up, throw it away. But unfortunately, it's not, right? Because with the level of accountability, it helps you have those difficult conversations with self that you don't want to have. But also with the self-awareness, it keeps you humble, right? Because I've talked about before how some people, they're like, why me? Why not me? Right? When is it going to be my turn? I'm always the bride. I'm never the bride. I'm always the bridesmaid. I'm never the bride. Like, I'm always the person that has the great ideas, but I never get promoted. Why? Maybe the reason why those things are happening or not happening for you is because you're not in alignment with where you should be in order for the doors to open for you to receive them. And then also, if you were to receive them, are you in a place in your life where you would actually appreciate it?
Well, OnJerya, again, going with that analogy, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Well, that might be a reason for that. And, again, I thought about Quran, because is that happening to you or for
Right.
you? Because if there is, obviously something's wrong. Particularly if you've been in a relationship. If you haven't been in a relationship, somebody can still say there's something wrong with that too. But if you've been in relationships and they're not moving forward, then there's a crack. Now, is the crack that you continually pick men, if men is your flavor, or women, whatever your flavor is, that are unavailable? Are you playing it safe? Do you have commitment commitment phobia? And the list could go on and on, but those are those symptoms. Those are cracks. And so you have to then figure out, okay, since I'm not recognizing this, so this is actually happening for me. It's not happening to me. I'm a bystander versus being actually involved in my life to figure out, why is this happening? Because, I'm very big on reflection. And that is how you begin to also see where does your motivation come from? Is it internal or is it external? Then you can also figure out, okay, how do I keep this momentum going? I've got this self-awareness now. Okay, self-awareness is good because first step. But now we got to put a plan in place to transform. Then we have to continually monitor our progress, because if we're not progressing well, then we need to step back and figure out again, why is this happening? And I can tell you, some of my stuff happens because I am not getting to the root cause, your language. I'm not getting to the root cause as to why there is a crack. I'm taking care of all the service stuff. I'm going to do a better example. A car needs a paint job. And it appears that the paint keeps peeling off this fairly new car, okay? So instead of the dealer, when the car goes to get the paint job, instead of the dealer, taking off the paint that's still there and whatever, thank you, sanding everything down, then getting it ready to paint the car. Instead, they do a wrap. So they're going to wrap the car, and the places where the paint's gone, there's going to be a wrap on the car. Well, that's a Band-Aid. You never got to the root cause. Well, ma'am, if I had taken all the other paint off, that don't mean we would go get to the root cause. No, but cosmetically, the car would look better, because basically you did a patch job. And if the same problem persists, it's going to look worse again. What is the root cause? Because we all got them. We all got them. And once we can figure that out and then see why we drawn to that, why I'm drawn to them type of people, that type of man, that type of woman. Once I can figure that out through real talk, I might be able, to begin to protect my energy and my boundaries, and remain compassionate as it relates to others, but not at my expense. Because that means we have to kind of balance strength with empathy. And I got to show some empathy here first. Because, what we said in another episode, that sometimes resilience is just self-neglect.
Yeah.
So I just can't give it all away. And everybody else is doing great. And I'm going down here. I just can't give it all away like that. But I want to level set and say if you're ready to grow your business with clarity and real strategy, DQ Consulting works with individuals and organizations to turn vision into execution. Visit askdrtas.com, askdrtas.com to learn more. OnJerya, help me with this. How do we create habits that actually support growth after we've had these major personal breakthroughs? Because we get a breakthrough, but how do we get those habits in place that's going to help us continue to progress through the breakthroughs so that we're not backsliding? Because we're going to keep bouncing forward.
Oh, okay. We definitely gonna keep bouncing forward. We're not gonna. Okay, I'm gonna leave that one alone. So, how do we create those habits to support growth after the storm, after the breakthrough? When I can see clearly now that the rain is gone, because it's gonna be a bright, sunshining day. I think is how it goes. One, we have to let them patterns go. Because it's so easy to go back to the old routine, right? Because it's comfortable, right? It's what's familiar. It's Linus in that blanket. I just don't want to let it go. I'm going to carry it everywhere with me. We have to be willing to let those old habits die. Also, you got to turn it into like one clear action, right? What is the one thing that I need to start doing differently? Whether it's tomorrow, whether it's today, whether it's 6 months from now, like start small, right? Like what is one thing that I need to do? We all know that every year, Happy New Year's on January 1st, everybody's like, oh, I got to lose weight. I got to make better, eating habits and choices because summer's going to be coming around here. And, I got to be bikini baby suit ready. It sounds real nice when we say that. It does. But then what happened? January 1st, we start off good. January 10th, we still good. And we may even end January 31st like, oh, girl, I did it. But then guess what happened? Now February comes along. Well, something in my life went wrong and I just couldn't keep it going. March comes along. Well, I'm going to get back to it. April comes along. Okay, well, it's okay. I still got some months. Now May come along and it's getting warm outside. Depending on where you live, it's getting warm. You getting that 70, 80-ish degree weather. Now you like, man, look, something about to be here in a couple of days. And I didn't do what I said I was going to do. Why? Because you did not, one, set a realistic goal, right? Meaning like, yes, you want to lose weight. Fabulous. Now, what's the action plan, right? How are we going to do this? What are the habits are we going to change? What am I needing to do? How do I approach this problem? Okay. Am I going to start small by let's cut out drinking sodas? I'm not drinking any sodas. I'm not drinking any sweet tea. Lord, no, that's my weakness. I love me some good old sweet tea over a Sprite and Dr. Pepper any day. But let's just start small. Well, I did good for January, but then I got stressed out and I needed some caffeine in my life. So that's what happened with February, March, April. I picked it up. Okay, cool. Well, I didn't create an environment of support because now we going back to that word again. I need an accountability partner. I need somebody that's going to hold my hand and be like, look here, you said that you, not me, but you wanted to lose weight. That's what you said. And I am here to hold you accountable. Well, I didn't create that environment, meaning that I didn't have nobody that's on my team as a cheerleader cheer me on to say, hey, girl, how did you do with your sweet tea today? Oh, girl, I didn't even have any. I had Crystal Light today. Oh, girl, I'm proud of you. Keep up the good work. How many steps did you walk today? Well, girl, normally I barely get, and this is really true statements right here. Girl, I barely get 1,000 steps a day. But today, I was able to get those 1,000 in. Without that environmental support, we go lacking. Right. And then as we know, you got to track it. Cause how you gonna know you're growing if you don't track the growth along the way? Well, for the example that we're using, you can have scale victories and then you can have non-scale victories as well. As they tell you, don't focus on the scale. I used to tell my OB all the time. He'd be like, look, you didn't lose. I said, let me tell you something. I don't care what that scale says. The scale may say that I only lost 1, 2, 3 pounds. But I can feel it in my clothes because, you can start moving a little bit different. You got a little pep in your step. So when you're able to track the growth, you then are able to see like the evolution of the fact that I created a realistic plan because you have to be real with yourself, whatever it is. I was able to then implement said plan. Not only did I just created it, I was able to implement it. And as a result of that, I came on top because I had someone in my corner, i.e. other than myself, that kept me focused. And that's what we talked about. Mm-hmm. That kept me focused and they held me accountable.
Well, OnJerya, and I think that's so important because we have to take ownership of our choices and our consequences. And it's so much easier to take ownership when everything is going well, but it doesn't always go well. So we have to be willing to do that. And I think, as you just so eloquently said, that's the rub. That's the challenge that we have. And so when we start talking about, how do we maintain it? It is an intentional walk every day, all day long. But we suffer in other ways also because, again, we got to own our stuff. It's up to us. So how does redefining strength influence long-term well-being? How does, how do we define what strong is? How do we define what strength looks like for us? How do we define what boundaries look like for us? How do we define what becoming looks like for us? Because all of that, once we define it, because a man without a plan, it's your phrasing. If we don't have a vision, then most likely I'm gonna run off the cliff at some point. I may be good for a while, but then I'm gonna take a nosedive off that cliff. So how does redefining strength influence our long-term well-being?
Well, first of all, you have to be okay with asking for help when you need it. I know it's hard. I got a problem with that too. I'm working on that. I'm not. Let me stop lying. I'm not working on that because that's a big hard for me. It's hard. You have to be willing to set boundaries and don't feel bad about the boundaries that you're setting. Because again, it's okay. They'll live. And then you have to admit when you're wrong. That's hard. What you mean I'm wrong? I'm always right. No, baby, you're not. You're wrong. Own it and accept it. Then you got to be honest with yourself about the struggles that you're going through. I know that's hard too. I'm not struggling. Yes, you are. And we all see you struggling. That's why you need to be asking for help. But I don't want to, but it's okay. You'll learn the hard way. And then you have to be willing to walk away from those that don't serve you anymore. They no longer serve you. Their time is up. The season is over. The band is playing or whatever. Like, It's over for them, baby. It's over. And then you have to choose healing over pretending. Because as we've already stated in this series, stop showing up as the resume person. Stop showing up as who, Teresa?
That representative.
That representative, and start showing up as your authentic self. Because as long as you do all of these things, and then there's so much more that you can do, it helps prevent that burnt out. Okay, it helps create those healthy relationships, those lovely boundaries, and you have growth, right? And it's going to help you continue to make those good decisions. Those decisions that are not based off of like your pride and your appearance and what other people think, because you're not going to care about what other people think. And then I'm going to use this big old word that we done said before. It's going to help you build resilience. Mm-hmm. You're going to stop pretending like nothing hurts. Baby, it hurt. They hurt your feelings, and it's okay. It's okay they hurt your feelings. Now what you gonna do about it? That they don't hurt. You gonna recover, you gonna learn, and you gonna bounce back, and you gonna keep it pushing.
Well, OnJerya, I think that you have wrapped up the series so eloquently. You know, it's about this episode and the series as a whole. It's about boundaries. It's about burnout. It's about becoming who you want to be, not who others say you should be or can be. You know, it's claiming your personal power while you understand it's okay to be continuing to grow and evolve. That's a part of life. And so I just want to say that this is a work in progress. Real talk is not an easy thing. We say we want real talk. Yeah, we want real talk. Because real talk means that you're going to hold yourself accountable. Real talk means that you're not going to be babying yourself. Real talk means you're going to tell it like a TI is. Because you know if you don't, what the consequences are. So again, I want to thank everybody for sitting in this conversation with us. Real talk is not about having it all figured out. It's about telling the truth about where you are and giving yourself permission to grow from there. As you move through the rest of your day, we invite you to sit with this question. What did this conversation name for you that you've been carrying quietly? You don't have to resolve it today. Awareness is part of the work. So applaud yourself if you're now aware. This conversation is part of a 4-episode limited series. Each episode stands on its own, but together they explore boundaries, burnout, healing, and becoming in real life. You're no longer plugged into the matrix, baby. You're going to become in real life. And you know the drill. Before you go trying to take care of someone else, please make sure you take care of yourself first. Bye now.
Bye.